what's up you guys, GameDad here, coming at you guys with another game review, and this time we are taking a look at Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This is the third game in the reboot trilogy that started a few years back, and this one is the limited steelbook edition. So we are going to take a look at everything that comes in this edition, and then I will give you guys my thoughts on the game as a whole. Alright, so here we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and this is the limited steelbook edition. Now if you saw my September 2018 pickups video, you would have seen this in that video as well, but we'll go ahead and go over it really quick. So we have a nice like cardstock paper sleeve to go around the steelbook. It gives you some of the in-game info on the back. There we go. And then we have the steelbook itself, shows a nice design on here right now. And then you have that nice steel case, and then when you open it up, gives you some info, some various information cards, and then something that was actually nice is it came with some art cards from the various games. So right here you can see we have the art card for Tomb Raider, the first one in the revamped trilogy. And then behind that we have Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now this one was probably my personal favorite out of the trilogy thus far. And then we have the new card for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Shows that cool eclipse going on in the background. So now let's go check out some of that in-game footage and show you what the game is like. Okay. Let's talk Shadow of the Tomb Raider. First, let me just get this out of the way. I'm glad the story's finished. The game looks amazing. It's fantastic graphically. The controls are exactly what you would expect. The story, oh, the story. I did not care for the story personally. I was really happy to see that this whole trilogy is finished. But myself and a lot of people that I've talked to all agree that Rise of the Tomb Raider, Rise was way better. And I think that's just because there was simply more to do, and it felt way more open world playing Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now, don't get me wrong. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it had some good stuff. It had really cool environments. It was really neat to see the way that the 4K and HDR all interacted with the environments. But overall, it felt like they were just trying to just finish a series without super fleshing it out. And I think they did the game an injustice. I mean, again, this is my opinion. You may love the game, so be it. That's totally fine. Personally, I was more happy just to see the story finished, but I think that there was a lot of room for improvement where the game overall just could have been better. I mean, they took such care to make the game look beautiful, and it does, but it's just a really nice looking game. It doesn't have the story to match it. I would much rather play a game with less of a focus on its graphics and more of a focus on its story. Like a game that I completed a couple months ago was Owlboy, and that game, it's a pixel style game. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a gorgeous game as well, but it doesn't have, you know, HDR and RTX and all these fancy acronyms to go with it. But the story was amazing, which meant the game was amazing. This game, I can't say that. I can say that it was cool, I got through it, but overall, I think the best thing about it is just the way that it looks, not the way that the story goes. And I found that to be a real shame. I mean, I was pretty disappointed in it. Now, one thing that kind of went with more of that beauty versus story kind of thing would be the cutscenes. Cutscenes looked great, but they are way too long in my opinion. I would rather watch like a 20-second cutscene and then get to 2 hours of gameplay instead of, you know, 5 or even, I think there was one cutscene, it was like 10 minutes long. I'm not playing a game to watch a movie. I'm playing a game to play a game. If I want to watch a movie, I'll do that. But in this game, the cutscenes were so long and they happened all the time. I didn't write down or track anything, but it felt like more than half the game was cutscene, and then the other half of the game was playing, where I would rather have, you know, maybe a total of, I don't know, 45 minutes of cutscenes throughout an entire 8 to 10 hour game. That way you get the tidbits of story that you need, but you actually get to play the game and experience the story through the game instead of watching a movie. Now, another thing about the gameplay, it felt too linear. So, Tomb Raider games, yeah, it's a very point A to point B game. I get that, I understand that, I accept that. And I also expect that from a Tomb Raider game because that's how the franchise is. You get from point A to point B. Awesome, okay? But in today's world, especially like even with Rise of the Tomb Raider or the original Tomb Raider for this specific trilogy, they made those games feel much more open. It wasn't an open world. You still had a point A to point B, but between there, it felt open. And in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it felt like it just kept trying to get you to the next point without truly letting you explore the area that you're in. All the areas that you go to are just so small that you're in there for, 20, 30 minutes and you're on to the next part of the map. Where in Rise of the Tomb Raider, I remember one section, I forget which area of the map it was, but it was kind of like a snowy area, and there were all these it was like a big factory and all this stuff that was there, and I spent probably 4 or 5 hours of the game in this one section because there was so much that you could do. And some stuff didn't get unlocked till you went further down into the story, but there was just so much to do, and I don't feel like I got that out of Shadow. I feel like the game was just significantly chopped down compared to the other two titles. And going back again to, beauty versus gameplay, one thing, I'm not sure why they did it, but I had multiple people commenting on it because I actually streamed my playthrough of this game, and I had multiple people commenting on how Lara looks different. And I went back and looked at the other games, and I don't know why they would change the model of Lara so much. It wasn't just like small feature changes to make her look more realistic or anything. They actually changed her actual bone structure. I mean, the character, it's Lara Croft, but they made her look so different from the other games in this same trilogy that it almost feels like this game doesn't even belong in this trilogy because she's almost a different character from a different set of games. She didn't look the same, and it was kind of off-putting throughout the game. I kept commenting throughout my stream that it's like, man, I just can't get over how different she looks. And I couldn't really pinpoint it until I went back to the other games to see. And I mean, from Tomb Raider to Rise, there were some slight feature changes to make her look a little more realistic, things like that. But from Rise to Shadow, it looks like a different character. I mean, like I said, you still got the essence of Lara Croft. You know that she's the Tomb Raider, but it looks like, maybe she's more of a sister or a cousin to the Tomb Raider instead of being the Lara Croft that you saw in the previous two games. And I don't know, like I said, it was just off-putting. I don't understand why they would do that. I don't know if it was, I don't know. I don't understand why they would do something like that, like changing the main character of the game that you've become accustomed to in two previous titles in this trilogy. So normally I don't really give ratings for games or anything like that because these are of course my opinions, and I know there's a lot of people that might disagree with what I have to say, and that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But if I had to rate this game, just because they focus so much on the way the game looks instead of on how the game plays, I would give this game maybe a 6 out of 10, and that's just because I think the game looks great. I think the game plays great. I don't think that there is enough of a story to warrant this being a game in the same trilogy. I think they could have done a lot better, and because of how the story was, it kind of burned me on going into DLC. On Rise, all the story, all the DLC, I couldn't get enough of it. But in Shadow, once the game was done, it was just kind of like, okay, well, that's going on the shelf, and I don't see myself ever playing it again because it felt like there'd be no point to it, so I just didn't care. So like I said, that's my opinion about the game. You may have a different opinion, and that's totally cool, and I would love to hear about it, so let me know down below. But overall, with the game as a whole, I was left wanting more, and not because I couldn't get enough of it, but because there wasn't enough to get. So there you have it, everyone. That is my opinion on Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, overall, like I said, I'd give it around a 6 out of 10 if I had to give it a rating, and that's mainly just because of the storyline issues. I would have much rather seen a game that was less impressive visually, even if it was just like Rise of the Tomb Raider. But that's not what we got. We got a really impressive looking game for a game that just wasn't as impressive, in my opinion. But if you guys liked today's video, please let me know down in the comments below. Have you played Shadow of the Tomb Raider? What did you think of it? Let me know. I would love to hear, especially if you have a different opinion than mine. Now, while you're down there, please be sure to also hit those like and subscribe buttons, as well as that little notification bell so you get an alert every time I got a new video coming out. Now, as always, I'm GameDad. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you later.